How's it going, everybody? Welcome to the channel. This is Big Daddy Dave, and this is a how to care for pigs video for Farming Simulator 22. This is going to show the best practices in order to get the most out of your pigs. Now, here we have a pasture and a barn. Now, what's the difference between these two? Well, the main differences that you'll notice is the capacities, both for the amount of animals that can fit into the pasture is going to be less than the barn, and the feed that is going to fit in here is going to be less than what can fit in the barn. But you will also notice some other differences, and I'll show those later on. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to first put in one adult pig for each pen and pasture. So here we're going to put in one adult, and oops, I think it's over here, and one adult. There we go. So now that we have that, we're going to go ahead and fill up. Now the difference that I'm going to do between this barn and this pen or pasture is this one I'm only going to fill up with one type of food, and this one I'm going to fill up with all of the feed. Now we first need to take a look at the animal screen just really quick before we do this. If we take a look at the animals, you will see, well, two things. One, at the bottom where it says food, you'll see total capacity. That's the total amount of space that is available for all of these four categories, which you'll see base food, grains, protein, and root crops. Those are your subcategories for your total capacity. And what that means is that if your total capacity is, let's say, 10,000 liters, you can then subdivide each one of those subcategories to come up with 10,000 liters. So you could have 2,500 liters of base food, 2,500 liters of grain, 2,500 liters of protein, and 2,500 liters of root crops. Now, it may not work out that way in reality. That's just a kind of basic example. Now, base food, grains, proteins, root crops, what are these? Well, we don't recognize these. We're used to seeing things like this: wheat, barley, oats, canola, sorghum, so on and so forth. Well, if we go down to the help menu and under the animals category, you'll see pigs. Look down at the very bottom of this description. You'll see base, grains, protein, and root crops. Base is either corn or sorghum. Grains is either wheat or barley. Protein is either soybeans, canola, or sunflowers. And root crops is either potatoes or sugar beets. Now, this is very important to notice that you have a bit of leeway depending on what category you're in. You need to pay attention to this because some of these are very, very expensive, whether it's to grow or to buy, whatever. It can be very labor intensive or very expensive to get a hold of these items. So you want to kind of figure out what is the cheapest one of each one of these in order to make this system work. Well, in this case, you've got sorghum is relatively cheap versus corn is very cheap. So you can kind of figure that out based on this screen, the prices per 1,000. So again, the first example is sorghum and corn. Well, to sell sorghum, I could make $613 per 1,000 liters. Or I could sell corn for $626. So if I have both of these products, well, I can make more per 1,000 of the corn than I can the sorghum. So I might as well sell the corn and keep the sorghum. Now, going back to this, I'm only going to put in one category into the pasture here, and I'm going to completely fill this up so we actually see movement. And you're going to see some interesting results by doing this. But again, one other key difference that a pasture has that a barn doesn't is that it requires water. So I'm going to first fill this up. And now I'm going to fill up all the subsequent components of the pasture here, or the barn. And you can see I have potatoes for my root crops. I have soybeans for my... Oh, and I just realized I don't have info turned on. Soybeans for my protein. So again, potatoes, soybeans. We have barley for grain and corn for our base. So let's fill this up really quick. Dump all this however much it'll take. And one thing we got to pay attention to is, are we approaching that total capacity? Because we don't want to put so much in that we then run out of room for other things. Because again, there's only so much that will fit in here, and we have to make a combination of these items fit in. So let's pay attention to what's being said here. Okay. All right, so you see the total capacity there in the pigsty, aka the barn, is significantly higher. So 16 and 16, we're at 3,200, to where the total capacity here at the pasture is a lot less. So we should be able to fill everything up to its maximum with the trailers that we have. Let's grab this one. So far in this barn, we've filled up the root crops and the protein. 16, 16. Now you're starting to see the grain go up. There we go. That's all done. Now here, let me turn these two off really fast. And now the base, which is the corn. Okay, so once this finishes filling up, we will be good to go from here. Okay, so let's take a look. Pasture is only going to have the root crops filled. Now you'll also notice that there's percentages that differ from, say, the sheep and the chickens. Sheep and chickens both have one category and it's 100%, but these ones have different percentages. You are looking for the total percentages to equal 100%, or bare minimum to be 100% of the combination of items that are filled. So in this case, we have a little bit of the root crops, proteins, grain, and base food. Add those all together equals 100%, which means that we will have health and reproduction. We're not actually producing something. There's no productivity up at the top like, say, our chickens and our sheep, but that's because you're mainly using sheep to fatten up and to sell off. That's their value, is eventually that $150 that the pig is worth will eventually increase, and they'll be worth far more than what we bought them for. They will also produce slurry, and as you can see, the pasture, none of this information's up at the top. No slurry, because there is no slurry as an output for a pasture. That's another key difference between a pasture and a pigsty, aka a barn, is that you have a byproduct from the barn that is slurry, but you also see straw there. I'll explain straw a little bit more in just a little bit. But let's go ahead and skip a month, and we'll see what we see here. Again, you're looking for that coveted 100%, at least a little bit of something in each one of these categories to equal out to 100%. All right, so it's 9 o'clock now. You don't see too much of a difference besides 2 liters of slurry here, but again, we're not producing slurry here. And you're seeing 10% health in the barn, no health in the pasture. There's your difference right there. Is you're starting to see your health go up here and nothing here. Let's go ahead and skip the entire month. And here we are, the next month, and let's see. The pig in the pasture, health 0. They've started eating some of the root crops. That's it. There's nothing happening. Now, if they were in a barn, they would be producing slurry, but that's it. They're not getting any fatter. They're not getting more expensive. They're just there. They're just there. They're really, I mean, you're gaining some value, $168 as opposed to, in comparison, $420 for one that we've fully gotten up to health. They're starting to reproduce as well. They're getting through that reproduction process to where they will have more pigs show up eventually. And you can see the food has gone down. Slurries at 67 liters, but straw is still at 0. We haven't added straw. We'll get to that again here in a second. Let's go one more month, and again we'll see the contrast. All right, we're one more month down. Now, let's take a look here. Again, still 0% health because we haven't hit that coveted 100%, at least 100%. In this case, for pigs, you can only get up to 100%, but for other animals, such as your cows, you could get up to 100%, or if you added things up differently, they would be over 100%, but you're really only caring if you get it up to 100%. Going above it, it's not going to get you anything extra. But you'll see here now, this pig in the pasture is now worth $186. The one in the barn is worth $466. This pig is becoming more valuable far quicker because we are able to get it up to 100%. Slurry is also being produced at 132 liters. We're chugging along. We're getting the health and we're getting the reproduction, but we're also not getting any reproduction from this pig because we haven't met its needs. Now, straw. I keep saying I'm going to come back to straw. Well, here it is. If you want to not only produce slurry, but you also want to produce manure, you need to have straw. Let me go grab one of the tractors and we will insert straw into the barn. So we're going to go up to the shop here. We can purchase some straw for the purposes of this demonstration. Let's see, so straw right there. We'll just do 1,600 liters. Now I believe the straw goes in over here. Yes, right here. And now if we take a look at the barn here, we should see straw. Yep, there it is. It's starting to go up. Oops, there we go. So it is full, or at least as much as we put into it. So now that we have straw in the mix, we can now start producing manure. But there's one small caveat. We need to have a place for the manure to go because the only thing that we have is a output for the slurry, which is right here. This is a slurry pipe that will give you the slurry, but we have no place to collect the manure from. Well, in order to do that, we have to go to the build menu, and under silo extensions, you have this, the manure heap extension. It is specifically this that you are looking for, because if you go under silos, you will also see a manure heap, but if you look here, I can put this anywhere I own property, all the way out in the middle of nowhere if I so choose. But if I look at the silo extension, you see how it reads now, a manure heap needs to be placed next to a barn. Oh, there we go. $25,000. I can place this down. If I place this down, which I will, it is now connected to the barn. And what happens is that now, just like the slurry, I will produce manure as well. Now, if I just had a regular silo here, it's essentially just a place for you to store the manure, but it's not a place to produce it. That's the difference between the extension and the silo. Now let's skip one more month to see the manure in play. Because now, even though we have put in straw, it's not going to tell us, hey, you've got manure here. It doesn't show that. Let's go one more month. Okay, we are one more month ahead. And now you can see slurry is at 197 liters. Straw has gone down. Food has gone down. Reproduction is at 75%. This pig is worth $512. The pig in the pasture is only worth $205. It's a huge, huge difference. You are making progress. You're not making any progress towards reproduction, and you're not, well, in this case, because it's a pasture, you're not producing slurry, as I said. So you can make some progress towards fattening up your pigs, but it's just going to be incredibly slow and going to be like it's just not going to be as productive as if you had all the elements available, and you're also not reproducing. But let's come over here really fast. Check it out. Manure heap extension at the bottom right hand corner. Manure 34 liters, and you can see just a little pile right there. That's it. That's a fully utilized pig pasture, pig barn. And that's it. Now, one last thing before we go. Pigs also have something I like to call a superfood. If you go into the buy menu under big bags, you'll see here pig food. Now, pig food will essentially, per however many liters that it is containing, if I go right here, it'll basically put in a percentage of that bag into each one of these categories. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab one of these tractors again, and I'm going to grab a thing of pig food. Actually, you know what? I can actually buy pig food from the buy point. So let's do that. And it'll show exactly what I'm talking about. So let's run back over there just really fast. Alright, now we should be able to find... Oh, pig food. Now, if you buy pig food, it's really expensive. Look at that. 1,600 liters is almost $5,600. It's super, super expensive because you're buying all the individual components and basically mixing it, right off the bat. But now, if I load this into the pasture here... We throw this all in. Now again, this only had potatoes that was filling up the root crop section. But now if we look at that, 799 base, 399 grain, 320 protein, 1,670 root crop. It took a little bit of each category and filled it up. So we didn't have to put in that kind of base or all those individual components. We could just buy the main superfood and be good to go from there and have the same results as we did before. Now, let's skip ahead a month, and now you'll see the difference and the climb between this pasture from this month to the next month. Because again, $205 versus $512. Let's go ahead that 1 month. And there we go. Now check it out. Health has gone up to 100%. Reproduction is at 25%. And this pig's value has skyrocketed compared to where it was before. It wasn't climbing nearly as high, but now it has equaled the same value as this pig here because we have finally gotten it up to that coveted 100%. Now, again, it's not going to produce slurry. It's not going to produce manure because it's a pasture and not a barn, but we're good to go. And now, because we have taken care of this pig from the very beginning, it has gone through the reproductive cycle, and now we have a pig that's 0 months old and is going to go through puberty before it gets into its reproductive cycle. And that's it. That is how to best take care of pigs on Farming Simulator 22. I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, please show me by liking, sharing, subscribing, following, commenting, doing all the things the algorithms enjoy you doing. That shows you're engaged with this channel, enjoying the content. And that being said, I hope you have a fantastic day. Take care.